So for this video we're going to see that we don't always take the photo that we intend to. We popped up to Baslow and Curbar Edge to get a picture of the Peak District and ended up coming back and taking a picture of the Honda VFR. So we're on our way again. Today we are heading out to try and catch a sunset. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon now, and it's the best part of an hour to get to where we're going. The sun's not due to be down fully until 5:52, so we should have plenty of time to get set up. When you're riding a motorbike, this is relevant. When you're riding a motorbike, it's important to have the right kit on, and that generally consists of armour and protection. You can get expensive kit, you get cheap kit. Today I'm wearing inappropriate kit. Inappropriate because this is a one-piece suit. It really is designed for racetracks rather than the road. It's, let's say, uncomfortable to stand up in. And I do mean it's uncomfortable to stand up in. It's designed for you to be leant over the motorbike and crouch down, and that's what it's good at. So why, you may ask, am I wearing this uncomfortable and ridiculous suit? It's because I need to break it in. You're supposed to wear them for about 6 weeks to break them in, and this is week 1. They stretch, the leather changes shape, and I'm going through the process of making it change shape to me, and that means riding with it on. Now that in itself isn't a problem because it's made to be used like I'm using it now, but when I get to the other end and want to take photographs, I have no clothes with me other than this, and it's just going to be like a geriatric holding a camera, because if I try and stand up I'll castrate myself. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and that's why I'm wearing what I'm wearing. Cool suit, Track Tech 5 by RST in case you're interested, and we're on the Honda VFR800 again. I love this bike. I may have mentioned last time, I'll probably mention it regularly. I love this bike, it's great fun. So today we're going to have a little ride out into the peaks. We're going to go to Curbar Edge and see if we can get a nice sunset over the valley there. Next to Curbar you also have Baslow Edge, that's another pretty one, and that looks down on Chatsworth House, which is pretty cool. On we go. Okay, so about 20 minutes to go until we get to our destination. We will be there well in advance of sunset, which is good. And today we are shooting again with a wide lens, a landscape lens. It's the 15-35 2.8, which is a staggeringly good lens. The 2.8 on such a wide lens is a bit unusual, but it works in such a versatile way. People think wide focal lengths like 15mm or things that are far away, but it can do great things up close. I don't expect to be using the 2.8 aperture this afternoon. I think I'll be at something like 5.6 to 7.1-ish. Might even go a bit narrower than that. And because it's really bright, we're likely to have a really low ISO, something around 100 for the sunset. And all I'm going for is quite a simple sun dropping behind the rocks today. So I'm hoping we can get that probably on Baslow Edge. Okay, here we are in the middle of the peaks, so it didn't take too long to get here. The moors to our right are home to quite a few deer and various bits of wildlife. Thank you for not killing me, Mr. Tractor. And just up on our left is Baslow, and on our right is Curbar. Both edges are very easy to walk along. good paths, and with clear views across a lot of the nicest bits of the Peak District. There is a car park here on the right that you can pay to park in. We won't be doing that, but just down here on both sides of the road is parking that's free. And then I'll have to walk up in this crazy one-piece suit. So that's our lay-by on the left there. So I will secure the bike and then we will head up the hill. Okay, so we're fitting an 82mm circular polarizing filter, which just screws onto the front of the lens element, and then you rotate the filter to change the polarization of light. If you do that whilst looking through the lens of the camera, you can tweak the colour of the sky to look more blue and more cool. So I always look at the sky in the east and have a look how pink and purple it gets, and that tends to be an indication of how well the post-sunset light is going to fan out. So we might be in for a bit more of a treat, but I've got to get off now. It does look good though. Glad we made the trip. We'll maybe get one sneaky photo in on the way back, because we're making good time and that sky is absolutely magnificent, so it'd be rude not to get a quick shot. So we're going to do a quick shot of the bike. With the sky behind, and then we'll zip over the road, try not to get squashed, and grab one of just the sky, because that is impressive. So as it happens, our landscape picture might end up becoming something else. I took this sequence of pictures of the VFR on the way home with progressively brighter exposures, and I'm going to have a go at sticking those all together. So I'm going to start with the brightest image. I'm going to use that as the base, and then I'm going to start pulling detail from the layers below. So the way I do this is I go to the next image in the chain, I select it all, I copy it, and then I paste it in, and it appears as a new layer in Photoshop. So I'm just going to do that for each of the layers. Okay, so we've got one image with the 6 layers in. I'm going to turn off each of the layers, and we've just got the brightest one at the background at the moment, which is great for the bike. The next thing I'm going to do is use the second layer. Now I'm going to have to align them each time and make sure they're all in exactly the same place, which is easier said than done. So both layers are on, and I'm going to change the opacity of the second layer so you can see through it, and then when you're on the move tool you'll be able to see when they line up. Okay, so that's close. Okay, I'm going to turn the opacity back up now so it's full, and then I'm going to switch the layer on and off. So there's a much more subtle rotation in this. So I'm going to use free transform, Control T, and then I'm going to have to adjust it to suit. That is near perfect. Okay, so what we've got then is 2 layers on top of each other, and one is brighter than the other. So
I'm going to repeat that process with the next 5 layers, and then we'll start working on merging them together. Okay, so we've aligned all our layers. I'm just going to put the top one on, which has got the most rotation, and the bottom one with the least rotation, and then crop to make sure we captured as far as we can across all the images. Okay, now we've got something we can work with. So our base layer is good for the bike. It's got this detail in the foreground, and our back layer is great for the sky, and we've got everything in between. So we'll take layer 2, which is slightly darker. Layer 2 I'm going to use to deal with the foreground here. So I'm just going to use a layer mask, and I'm going to use some shortcuts here. So G is the paint tool, X switches between black and white. I'm going to use that to clear the mask, and then B for brush, and I'm going to brush in the mask below. I'm going to make my opacity high. I'm going to put it up to 50%. It's neither high nor low actually. Normal and a big brush, and then I'm going to be able to pull through from the layer below with a white brush. So X to switch the brush. So I'm just taking out some of the brightness from this this foreground dirt. I don't want that, especially right near the front of the bike. Okay, that will probably be all I want from that layer. Next layer has got quite a lot of colour starting to come out in the sky. So we'll keep the tree over here on the left hand side of the image for sure. So we'll do the same thing again. We'll put a layer mask on, G for the brush, X to switch to black and get rid of the whole image, X again to switch to white, B to switch to brush. And then I'm going to start painting in the sky in the background here. Now most of this I'm going to get rid of, and I'm going to take from layers below. I'm just going to kick us off with the layer 2 data. Okay, that's quite nice. So I'm going to turn the layer mask off. So, what I'm doing here, I'm looking to see if there's anything else on this layer that I want. And the answer is no. Apart from, you see on the right hand side of the bike, left hand side as you look at it, the road's a bit light there. In the layer below, that's quite dark, so I'm going to feather that in a little bit here. I'm going to use the brush tool again. I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. Let's get to about 400 pixels. And start bringing in some of that darker road. And because I'm using a brush which only has a 50% opacity, I can afford to go over it several times, pulling in this this darkness from the road. Okay, so I'm just going to look at the sky this time as I turn the layer mask off. Yeah, we pulled that in well. And we're keeping all this greenery in the foreground. We'd like to preserve that. So let's check layer 3. Layer 3 doesn't have a lot to offer us, so I'm actually going to delete that layer. Layer 4, much better sky, and that's about all. Okay, so we'll look at the sky here. So a new layer mask, G for the paintbrush, X to switch to black, get rid of everything, B for a brush, X to switch to white. I'm going to go for another really big brush, so I'm going to go about 2,500 pixels, and I'm going to start pulling in that much darker sky. Okay, I'm just going to disable the layer mask again, hold shift and click on the mask. Okay, there's nothing else I want from that image that I don't have already, so that's good. The layer below, we've got the road. Layer below that, we've got the foreground going dark, and then we've got the bike in the background. Our final layer, really dark, but good imagery of the sky. Need to be careful here because this layer, layer 4, has got a nice sky in. Layer 5, that doesn't. It has a good bit at the bottom, but that's all. So we'll create a new layer mask, G for bucket, X for black, B for brush, X for white. Now we're going to go for a relatively large brush, about 700 pixels, and then I'm going to drop the opacity down further. So I'm going to go to about 20%, and then I'm going to start feathering in a bit of this darker sky. That's already too much, so I'm going to drop that opacity down to 10%. I don't want this to suddenly have dark spots in the image. Okay, and then we're just going to pull a little bit of the darkness from the layer below through. I don't want too much of it, but I do want that lovely sun to come through from the layer below. So I'll disable the mask. Okay, so there's some nice orange around the handlebars I could get. I'm just going to drop the brush size down smaller so I can come in here. And I'm going to pull in a little bit of that orange. Okay, I'm just disable the layer mask again. Okay, I can go further with that. Okay, that's nice. Okay, and I can darken these clouds a little as well. Now that's too much, that's starting to take the blue of the clouds out. I only really want to highlight the pinks. Okay, let's see what that looks like. That looks reasonably natural. Disabled, enabled. Okay, I can just make this centre section punch a little bit more if we use a bigger brush and then take this white line. So that was quite prominent in the layer, the darker layer. Okay, that's nice. Okay, happy with that. Holding Alt and clicking on the layer shows you the mask itself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the quick selection tool, and I'm just going to select the bits of the bike that I don't want the mask to affect. Okay, now when I click on the layer mask and make changes to it, I'm constrained by that nice outline that we've got of the bike. So I'm just going to use a brush, high opacity, and I'm going to brush all of that out so it doesn't get affected. And then switch that and do a white brush, and then I'll do inverse selection, and then start really making a crisp line around that bike. Okay, and that will let me achieve what I want to. So Alt click, we're back to normal. Control D to deselect everything. Okay, so what we've done there is got a nice crisp image, which means when we change this bike, it will only change the bike. Now you can see some errors down here where I've missed a bit of the wheel. That's fine because we're only making fairly subtle changes. So let's pump that up a little bit. I don't want to go too far, that's fine. And that should make the bike stand out a lot more. That's cool. And then we will use a bit of the dodge tool just to brighten up the shadows a little bit. Exposure's low, it's 10%, and I'm just pulling up a little bit of the colour of the bike at the top. Okay, no more than that. Now, in terms of the composition, I'd quite like to make the bike fill more of the frame. I don't want to lose all this green because that's quite nice, but I'm going to crop in a little bit of the foreground. And one of the things I can do is use this road to create a leading line. I'm going to make the line for the road go to the corner of the picture to bring your eyes into the picture. Now, that tree is one of the nicer bits of the picture, so I don't want to lose that. So I'm going to move a bit further down the road to keep that tree in. And it's also landing the bike smack on the crosshair of the rule of thirds in both directions. So in theory, that should be an aesthetically pleasing crop. And it is actually, that's pretty good. The bike looks a little bit false coloured compared to the rest now. And I'm going to address that by increasing the saturation. When you've got a colourful sky, you tend to end up with colourful things beneath it. Okay, so that's brought up the blue a bit. So I'm just going to drop the brightness a little bit on the bike itself. Okay, happy with that. So let's just have another rattle through our various images. So there's the background, which is the bike. That's got some green colour I might want to pull through. Layer 2 now is just darkening that foreground for us. Layer 3 is darkening the road. There's certainly some scope for improvement there. So we'll just use our brush tool on black and we'll just brush that in much more darkly. So we're directly working on the layer with the mask visible here. So we're not showing the image below. With the image below shown, that all becomes transparent. And second layer, darken that foreground. Okay, so that's looking okay. Layer 4, that's the first pass of the sky, and layer 5 is the second pass. So with all of those turned on, we're left with this, which is quite nice. I don't like this piece of grass, this is a distraction, so I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to use the clone stamp to do that. So you just pick a point in the image that's similar in terms of colour and texture, hold Alt and click, Now I've taken that part of the image and I'm going to start drawing that and merging that in here. I'd like to improve this grass, so I'm going to use the dodge tool on shadows because it is quite dark, and I'm going to put that to about 25%, 26%, and I'm going to set the brush size to about 1300. That should be enough for me to start pulling out this. So layer 1, the greenery is visible, same on 2 and 3, on 4 it goes away. So the mask of layer 4 is probably where we need to put some time in. Okay, and then we're just going to pull out a little bit of the greenery by using a white mask, which will let the layers below shine through. I'm just softening this a little bit so the road looks a little brighter. Okay, it's getting better. This looks a little bit unnatural here, so I'm just going to tweak that a little further. And I'm going to do that by a low opacity brush, about 27%. Just pull that down a little bit so it looks a bit more natural in terms of its colour. Okay, although I wanted to keep the grass on the right, it is feeling like it wants to be cropped a little tighter around the bike. I think I prefer that as an image. We can have a look at gradients as well. So there's the gradient tool to try and pull down the sky further. I'll just see how that looks. The first thing I'll do is duplicate all these layers and then merge them together into a single layer, so I can treat this as a single image. We can ignore the 5 layers below. I'll keep them just in case anything goes wrong. So that actually suits the image quite well, darkening the sky here. So we'll keep that. I'm going to punch up the vibrance and saturation a little bit. So the vibrance will make the orange clouds look better, and the saturation will do the grass and hopefully a little bit of the bike in the foreground. Okay, that's quite nice. I do want to lighten the bike a little bit as well. So I'm going to use the dodge tool, and I'm looking at the shadows, the dark bits. I'll do an exposure of about 50%. And I'll just start pulling up a little bit of the paint around the bike, because it is a nice blue colour. I'd like to show some of that. Indicators, I can easily select those. I'll look to brighten those a little as well, because they do look particularly dark. So then we'll go to add. Oh, just need to trim that side. So it's sometimes useful to zoom in to do this, the selection. You won't notice it on the bigger image when you look at it, but time taken at this stage will actually pay dividends. The image will just look a little bit better. Okay, so with them selected, I'm going to go to our dodge tool, and then I'm just going to brighten them a little bit. Not too much. Okay, and then deselect. Okay, that's fine. Happy with that. I am going to trim in even further on this right hand side. I'll just still preserve that leading line. I'll have another quick look at vibrance and saturation. Okay, that's pretty cool. I think I'm happy with that as an image. I'll give it 5 minutes and check it back out. Okay, so I'm cheating a little bit by comparing these two images, as it's a stack of about 5-6 images that we used. But this is the base image and this is the final image, and I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to keep the dark moodiness with the exaggerated colours because I like that effect. I think that's a nice one.
So I must say I'm quite enjoying making these videos. I love riding my bike. I love my camera. And the process that goes alongside making a good picture is something I really enjoy as well. So pulling all this together into the channel, it's really proving to be quite a lot of fun for me. I hope you're enjoying it too. And if you have any ideas or requests for places or things that you want photographed, or you want to know how to photograph, just ping me a message and I'll see what I can do.